Assalamu alaikum. In today's lesson, we will be having a look at our two poems from Unit 7, Home Thoughts from Abroad and I Miss You, Palestine. Home Thoughts, we will first have a look at Home Thoughts from Abroad, which is written by Robert Browning. Now, Robert Browning was born in the year 1812 in Walworth in England. Browning wrote his first piece of poetry at the age of 12. His first major publication was in the year 1833. After numerous failures, he finally became successful and came to be known as one of the foremost Victorian poets due to his mastery of the dramatic monologue. His most notable works include Men and Women, The Ring and the Book, and Dramatic Romances and Lyrics, among many others. A poet and a playwright, Browning died in the year 1889 of natural causes. About Home Thoughts from Abroad, the poem was written in 1845. At the time of its writing, the poet was in northern part of Italy. It was first published in Dramatic Romances and Lyrics. The setting of the poem. The setting of the poem is in some foreign place, though most of the poem speaks of England and places in it, and then later shifts to some countryside full of fields. The primary setting of the poem is some place outside of England. This is evident from the title and from the lines of verse used in the poem. The foreign place the poet is in at that time of writing was Italy. Now, coming to the poetic devices in Home Thoughts from Abroad, there are a total of four. We have imagery, rhyme, metaphor, and alliteration. First and the foremost, we have imagery. The speaker of the poem uses vivid imagery to describe certain trees in England. In stanza 1, he describes the elm tree, and in the second stanza, he describes the pear tree. The description is so vivid in the second paragraph that it is almost dreamy. Next comes the rhyme. The rhyme scheme of the poem is irregular, so is the stanza part. There are two stanzas, both are different in length. The first one with 8 lines and the second with 12 lines. The rhyme scheme of the first stanza is A, B, A, B, C, C, D, D. The rhyme scheme of the second stanza is E, E, F, G, F, G, H, H, I, I, J, J. As it is seen, it is without a pattern. But there are certain critics who believe that it is a sort of um, reverse rhyme scheme. Okay, and the rhyme scheme in the second stanza is reflective of the work of Emily Dickinson, who was the wife of Robert Browning. So we can say that the rhyme scheme in the second stanza takes inspiration from the work of Emily Dickinson, who was the wife of Robert Browning. Next, we have the use of metaphor. There is a small metaphor in this last second line of the second stanza when the speaker says that the fields are the buttercups, that the fields and the buttercups are dowries to children. Now, dowry obviously cannot be given to children, equating the meaning to imply that the fields and buttercups provide children with happiness. The final figurative speech is alliteration. There is some alliteration seen in the poem. In line 5 of stanza 1, boughs and the brushwood, the b sound is being alliterated. Let's have a look at the quick summary of the poem. The speaker speaks of his home country, England, fondly and says how lovely it would be to live there. He begins by saying that it was April now in England. It was the time when elm tree bare leaves and chaffinch, the second commonest breeding bird in Europe, sings. And when May comes, one can see the whitethroats, a common warbler in Europe, and the swallows, both birds. He says one can also see the blossomed pear tree, and he goes on to describe the tree in some length. He next speaks of the thrush's song, then he speaks of all the beautiful fields and flowers, and ends the poem by saying that England, his home, was far brighter than the gaudy melon flower he was in front of right now. The poem is full of wonder and admiration and longing. The speaker of the poem wonders on the little things that happen in England and how they give it a certain uniqueness, which is often missed by the people living there. He admires the trees, the birds, and the fields, all beautiful and providing happiness. Finally, we know how he longs for his home by his use of dashes before certain words and sentences, like now, in the last line of the poem. As a conclusion, we can say that the poet Robert Browning captures his love for his home, England, in a beautiful manner through this poem. Though he is far away in a foreign place, he is often reminded of home by the smallest of things, for example, the melon flower. The the result of that nostalgia and memories is this poem. We will see the same thing in our second poem as well. Again, just like our previous poem, Home Thoughts from Abroad, we have the second poem, I Miss You Palestine by Jalal al Jayusi. Remember, Jalal al Jayusi is a Palestinian American who has migrated, who sought political asylum in America due to the peace conflict in Israel occupied Palestine. Although he's living in a lavish life in America, but his heart longs to go back to his homeland, Palestine, which is suffering by the cruel oppression of the Israelites. Um, you are familiar with the idea of metaphor. Metaphor, remember, is that okay. Towards the end, we will give a little, take a little look at the different figurative speeches, so that you know their terms, and you know how to use them. I miss my grandfather's orchard. I miss the grapevine. I will be looking at the alliteration in the poem first, okay? Although throughout you can see, imagery in this poem, but wherever necessary, I will highlight that this portion is imagery, and this is, or let's simply go turn-wise. First, we're going to look at the alliteration. Alliteration, remember, is the repetition of the consonant sounds or the vowel sounds at the start of closely written words. I miss my grandfather's orchard. Repetition of the m sound. M, m. I miss my grandfather's orchard. I miss the grapevine. I miss the olive grove. I miss you, Palestine. I miss sitting at my grandfather's doorsteps, enjoying the smell of jasmine tree. I miss the music of the buzzing bee. Alliteration. M, m. B, b. I miss the sunset walks along the pine line tree. I miss a homeland that I can call mine. I miss you, Palestine. Again, over here, k, k. I asked about your news. A, a. I asked about your news. Even the a sound in I is the same. A. I asked about your news, and I found that my grandfather's orchard is no longer around, that the olive grove has been razed to the ground so that the settlers can have the peace of mind. Sir, sir. And that since the bees have been sprayed with insecticides, you can no longer enjoy their buzzing sound. I heard that you are moaning in pain as your blood is being spilled on every mountain, valley, and plain. That you're calling on your children in every land to come rescue you from the oppression of an evil mankind. I am coming back, my cherished land, to plant you with fruit and olive trees and flowers of every kind. No matter how tough is the strife, I am coming back to build the beehive. B, b, b. I'm coming back, Palestine, in spite of the bullets of the cruel border guard, in spite of a Western life that is so fine. No matter how many years have gone by, I am still your loyal son, my Palestine. Now I'd like to look at imagery. If you look at the poem all over, you can see different images being created in the mind of the reader when the poet talks about the grandfather's orchard, the grapevines, the olive grove, especially over here, sitting at my grandfather's doorsteps, clear imagery is created. Okay, enjoying the smell of the jasmine tree. This is the imagery of sight. Here in this line, you have the imagery of smell. Immediately, the smell of the jasmine comes to your mind, and the music of the buzzing bees. Here, it is the imagery of sound. Okay? You can visualize the buzzing of the bees as you think of the different things. You can easily visualize this. I miss the sunset walks along the pine tree line. Again, a clear image is created in the mind of the reader. You can imagine a person walking at sunset time along the pine tree line, a line of pine trees. I miss a homeland that I call mine. Continuing, similarly, that the olive ground has been razed to the ground. Again, clear imagery of sight. That so that the settlers can have the peace of mind, and that since the bees have been sprayed with insecticides, you can no longer enjoy their buzzing sound. Sort of, you can say that there is imagery over here. I heard that you are moaning in pain. Moaning in pain is also imagery of sight. You can visualize that um, Palestine is crying in pain, just like anybody would cry once they have been hurt. And then over here as well, you have imagery that you're calling on your children in every land. You can imagine that there is someone who is screaming, asking for help from their children, asking them to come and rescue them. Okay. And later on, over here, I'll plant you with fruit and olive trees and flowers of every kind, and build back the beehives. This is all imagery. Build the beehive, plant flowers, fruit, olive trees, and flowers of every kind. This is all imagery. In spite of the bullets of the cruel border, an image of the border guard shooting bullets at the, poet is an image again which comes to your mind. Then we come to personification. Although Home Thoughts from Abroad does not have personification, this poem does. The personification in this poem is over here. I heard that you are moaning in pain. Who would moan in pain? a human, isn't it? And he is talking about his country. Okay, the poet is talking about his country, but over here, that country is being personified. Okay, it is being personified as a human, as a woman, a grown up adult woman who is moaning in pain. She is hurt and she is, making sounds out of pain. Why? Because its blood is being spilled on every mountain, valley, and plain. Again, blood being spilled on every mountain, valley, and plain would also be imagery, but over here, right now, we are talking about personification. So the country, the poet's country, Palestine, is being personified as a woman, as a mother. How do we know that she is a mother? Because she, later on in this line, you get to see that she is calling on her children, that you are calling on your children. Who would call her children? Obviously, a mother. So, the children who have gone off in every land, that is, the children, the citizens. By the word children, here we mean citizens. Okay? So, all the citizens, all the nationals, all the children of the motherland, the hurt mother is calling for its children to come and rescue her from the oppression of an evil mankind. Now, second personification, evil mankind. Who is this evil mankind? This is Israel. Okay? The Israel army, the Israelite government, which is cruelly oppressing the Palestinians. Okay? We understand personification. We're done with imagery. We're done with um, alliteration. Okay? This poem does not have any metaphors. Okay, with that, we come to the end of our lesson. Thank you very much.